Your Biggest Enemy is Staring Back in the Mirror, a motivational audiobook by the Protocols of Astrian. There is a moment that comes in almost everyone's life, usually when we are alone with our thoughts, when we realize something uncomfortable. We spend so much time looking outward, pointing fingers at everything, and everyone we believe is blocking our path. We blame the boss who doesn't appreciate us, the economy that seems stacked against us, the family that never supported our dreams, or the bad luck that just seems to follow us around like a shadow. It feels good to have someone to blame because it takes the weight off our own shoulders for a little while. But deep down, in those quiet moments before sleep, a small voice whispers that maybe the problem isn't out there at all. That voice is trying to tell you something important, something that could change everything if you had the courage to listen. This book is an invitation to finally look in the direction that voice is pointing, directly at the person you see when you brush your teeth in the morning. The journey we are about to take together is not about fixing your circumstances, your job, or the people around you. It is about understanding the one relationship that shapes every other relationship you will ever have. We are going to discover that the harshest critic, the loudest doubter, and the biggest dream stealer you will ever face has been living inside your own head all along. But here is the exciting secret that changes everything. Once you truly understand the enemy in the mirror, you also discover that the most powerful ally you could ever imagine has been standing right there waiting for you to notice. The pages ahead are designed to walk you through this discovery step by step, and by the time we reach the end, you will never see your reflection the same way again. Chapter 1: The Great Blame Game. There is a game that almost every person on this planet plays, and the saddest part is that most of us don't even realize we are playing it. We wake up in the morning and something feels off. We are not where we want to be in life, and our first instinct is to look around for someone to hold responsible. It could be the parents who raised us a certain way, the teacher who told us we weren't good enough, or the partner who doesn't understand our deepest dreams. This game feels incredibly satisfying in the moment because it gives us a perfect excuse to stay exactly where we are without feeling guilty about it. We get to be the victim of our own story, and there is a strange comfort that comes with playing that role day after day. The problem with the blame game is that it traps us in a cage where we have no power to change anything at all. We become passengers in our own lives, just along for the ride while everyone else steers the ship. The person pointing fingers never has to take responsibility, but they also never get to experience the incredible feeling of building something beautiful with their own two hands. Think about the last time you caught yourself blaming someone else for your situation. Maybe it was traffic making you late, or your coworker dropping the ball on a project. When we blame traffic, we forget that we could have left earlier, and when we blame the coworker, we ignore the fact that we could have communicated better. This habit of looking outward becomes so automatic that we miss hundreds of small opportunities to grow stronger every single day. The world becomes a place where things just happen to us, rather than a place where we actively create our own experience. We start to believe that success is something that happens to lucky people, not something that is built through daily choices and consistent effort. The most dangerous part of this mindset is that it feels so reasonable, so justified, that we never question whether there might be another way to see things. We collect evidence to support our victim story like a detective building a case, proud of how clearly we can prove we have been wronged. But all the while, the person in the mirror watches silently, knowing that we are giving away our power with every single excuse we make. There is a reason why the blame game is so popular, and it is because it asks nothing from us except to feel sorry for ourselves. Feeling sorry for yourself requires no action, no courage, and no risk of failure. It is the safest emotional place you can possibly hide. You can sit on your couch and blame the world for your problems for 20 years and never break a sweat. But consider for a moment what you are giving up by choosing this safety. You are giving up the chance to discover who you could become if you stopped making excuses. Every person who has ever achieved something remarkable had every reason to play the blame game. They faced obstacles, setbacks, and people who told them they would never make it. The difference is that they made a choice at some point to stop looking outward and start looking inward. They realized that blaming others might feel good for an evening, but taking responsibility feels amazing for a lifetime. The weight of playing the victim is actually much heavier than the weight of owning your life, because victimhood chains you to the past, while responsibility sets you free to build the future. Imagine for a second that you could wake up tomorrow and every single person you have ever blamed for your problems would suddenly apologize to you. Imagine your boss admitted they were wrong, your parents said they were sorry, and the world finally recognized how unfairly it had treated you. Would that apology actually change your life in any meaningful way? Would it give you new skills, new confidence, or a new direction to walk toward? The answer is probably not, because while blame might explain how you got here, it does absolutely nothing to help you get where you want to go. This is the hidden truth that changes everything when you finally see it. Your past is not holding you back. Your interpretation of your past is what keeps you stuck. Two people can go through the exact same difficult experience, and one will use it as an excuse while the other uses it as fuel. The experience itself has no power. The only power lies in the story you decide to tell yourself about it. The person in the mirror has been waiting for you to realize that you are the author of that story, and you can rewrite it anytime you choose. The beauty of waking up to the blame game is that you cannot unsee it once you have recognized it playing out in your own mind. You will catch yourself mid-sentence blaming traffic and suddenly realize you are doing it, and that moment of awareness is the beginning of your freedom. You will notice how often you make your happiness dependent on other people changing their behavior, and how ridiculous that arrangement truly is. Giving someone else the keys to your peace of mind is like handing your credit card to a stranger and hoping they don't spend too much. The only person whose behavior you can truly control is the one staring back at you when you stand in front of the mirror. This realization might feel uncomfortable at first because it means the excuses have to go, but it also means your potential has no limits anymore. You are no longer waiting for the world to change so you can finally be happy. You are free to be happy right now and build from there. The blame game ends the moment you decide that being powerful is more important than being right. So here is the question that this chapter leaves you with, and it is a question worth sitting with for a while. If you had to stop blaming everyone else today and take complete ownership of your life, what would be the first thing you would need to change about yourself? This is not about beating yourself up or pretending that other people never hurt you. It is about recognizing that your future is too valuable to leave in anyone else's hands. The person in the mirror is not asking you to forget the past. They are asking you to stop letting the past write the story of your tomorrows. Every great journey begins with a single honest look in the mirror, and that look asks you to admit that you have been giving away your power. But admitting it is not a weakness. It is the first step toward taking it all back. The game ends today if you want it to, and when it does, you will finally be free to start playing a much better game called owning your life. Chapter 2: The Lies We Love to Tell Ourselves. There is a strange comfort that comes from the stories we repeat to ourselves over and over again until they feel like absolute truth. We tell ourselves that we are just not morning people, so we hit snooze and miss the quiet hours when the world is still and full of possibility. We whisper that we are not lucky like other people, so we stop trying and watch opportunities pass us by without lifting a finger to grab them. These lies become the walls of a prison we build with our own thoughts, brick by brick, year after year, until we forget there was ever a world outside. The saddest part is that we actually believe we are protecting ourselves from disappointment, when in reality we are guaranteeing it. We would never let a friend speak to us the way we speak to ourselves, yet we accept this inner dialogue as just the way things are. The voice in our head becomes a bully we have made peace with, and we stop questioning whether anything it says is actually true. Think about the lie that you are too old to start something new, or the lie that you missed your chance and it is too late now. People in their 60s and 70s have started businesses, found love, and discovered talents they never knew they had. So what makes your age the exception? The truth is that age is just a number we use to measure time, but it has nothing to do with what we are capable of achieving at any moment. We tell ourselves these lies because starting something new is scary, and staying still feels safe even if it makes us miserable. We convince ourselves that we are being realistic, when really we are just being afraid to fail. The person in the mirror knows the difference. They know when you are hiding behind a lie that sounds reasonable but keeps you small. That voice that says you cannot do it is almost always lying, and the only way to prove it wrong is to try. Another favorite lie we love to repeat is that we need more preparation before we can take the first step toward our dreams. We tell ourselves that we will start exercising once we buy the right shoes, or we will write that book once we take a class on writing. This lie is dangerous because it sounds so responsible, so reasonable, that we never recognize it as the trap that it truly is. The perfect time to start never comes because perfection is an illusion that exists only in our minds, not in the real world. While you are waiting for the perfect conditions, life is happening right now, and it is happening without you. The shoes will not make you run, and the class will not write a single page of your book. Only you can do those things. Preparation becomes procrastination when it keeps you from ever beginning, and the person in the mirror sees right through this game you are playing with yourself. We also tell ourselves lies about what other people think of us, assuming they are judging us as harshly as we judge ourselves. You cancel plans because you think everyone will notice your awkwardness, or you stay quiet in meetings because you assume your ideas are not good enough. The truth is that most people are far too busy worrying about themselves to spend much time analyzing you at all. We build entire scenarios in our heads where people are laughing at us or talking behind our backs, but these scenarios are almost always fictional. The fear of judgment keeps us small and invisible, but the judgment we fear rarely actually exists outside our own imagination. The person in the mirror knows that you are the one judging yourself most harshly, and they are waiting for you to realize that you can stop anytime. There is a lie that says your feelings are always facts, that if you feel stupid then you must be stupid, and if you feel incapable then you must be incapable. But feelings are just visitors that pass through us. They are not permanent residents, and they are certainly not accurate measures of our worth. You can feel afraid and still be brave. You can feel stupid and still say something brilliant. You can feel lost and still be exactly where you need to be. Feelings are information, not orders, and you do not have to obey everything you feel. The person in the mirror has felt every single feeling you have ever felt and still believes in you completely. The question is whether you will let temporary feelings dictate the entire direction of your life. So the work of this chapter is simple to describe but challenging to do. You must start catching yourself in the act of telling lies. When you hear that voice saying you cannot, ask it for proof, demand evidence that what it says is true. When you feel yourself making an excuse, pause and wonder whether that excuse is really protecting you or just holding you back. The lies we tell ourselves are comfortable old friends, but they are not the kind of friends who want what is best for us. They want us to stay small and safe and never risk the beautiful disaster of chasing a dream. The person in the mirror is ready to tell you the truth, but you have to be willing to listen past the noise of all those comfortable lies. Today is a good day to start questioning everything you have always believed about yourself, because some of those beliefs are the only things standing between you and the life you actually want. Chapter 3: The Creeping Complacency. There is a danger that does not arrive with a loud crash or a dramatic warning. It creeps in so slowly that you barely notice it taking over your life. It starts with small compromises, like skipping a workout just this once, or putting off a dream project for another week. Then one day you look up and realize that months have passed, maybe years, and you have been drifting instead of moving. This slow fade is called complacency, and it is one of the most powerful enemies you will ever face because it wears the mask of comfort. It tells you that everything is fine, that you do not need to push yourself, that you can rest a little longer before getting started. But fine is a dangerous word when it replaces words like alive, excited, and growing. The person in the mirror sees the spark dimming little by little, and they are waiting for you to notice before it goes out completely. The comfort zone where complacency thrives is a warm and cozy place, and that is exactly why it is so dangerous to stay there too long. Your bed feels wonderful in the morning, but staying in it all day would mean missing everything life has to offer outside those warm blankets. The comfort zone feels safe because there are no challenges there, nothing that might make you feel embarrassed or afraid. But there is also nothing in the comfort zone that will make you feel proud, strong, or truly alive. We are not designed to stay still. We are designed to grow, to stretch, to reach for things that seem just beyond our grasp. When we stop stretching, we start shrinking, even if we do not feel it happening right away. The person in the mirror knows that you are capable of so much more than this comfortable half-life you have settled for. Think about the areas of your life where you have stopped trying, where you have accepted things as they are because changing them feels like too much work. Maybe it is your health, and you have stopped believing you could feel energetic and strong again. Maybe it is your relationships, and you have stopped putting in the effort to keep the spark alive. Maybe it is your career, and you have stopped looking for ways to grow because it is easier to just collect a paycheck and go home. In each of these areas, complacency has quietly taken the wheel while you sat in the passenger seat watching the scenery go by. The problem is that life does not stand still while you are comfortable. It keeps moving, and if you are not moving with it, you are actually falling behind. The gap between where you are and where you could be grows wider every day you choose comfort over growth. What makes complacency so sneaky is that it never announces itself as giving up. It always sounds like being reasonable. It tells you that you deserve a break, that you have worked hard enough, that it is okay to just maintain instead of striving. But maintaining is just another word for slowly declining, because nothing in nature stays the same forever. A garden that is not growing is actually dying. A relationship that is not being nurtured is actually fading. A skill that is not being practiced is actually being lost. The idea that you can just stay where you are forever is an illusion. You are either moving forward or slipping backward. There is no standing still. The person in the mirror wants you to see that the choice is yours every single day, but you have to be honest about which direction you are actually moving. There is a specific moment when complacency can be defeated, and it is the moment you choose discomfort for the sake of growth. It is the moment you drag yourself to the gym when you would rather sleep in, the moment you have the hard conversation you have been avoiding, the moment you start the project you have been putting off for months. That moment of choosing discomfort feels terrible in the short term, but it is the only path to feeling alive in the long term. Every person you admire, every hero you look up to, got where they are by consistently choosing discomfort over complacency. They felt the same resistance you feel. They heard the same voice telling them to stay comfortable, but they moved anyway. The person in the mirror is not asking you to be perfect. They are just asking you to move, to choose growth just one more time than you choose comfort. So here is the truth that this chapter wants you to carry with you. Complacency is not a destination, it is a direction. You can change direction at any moment, no matter how long you have been drifting, no matter how far you feel you have fallen behind. The first step is simply noticing where you have stopped trying, where you have accepted less than you truly want. The second step is choosing discomfort just once, just for today, and seeing how it feels to be alive again. The person in the mirror has been waiting for you to get uncomfortable, because they know that is the only place where growth happens. Comfort is a wonderful servant but a terrible master, and today you get to decide which one it will be in your life. The spark is still there. It has not gone out. It is just waiting for you to stop settling and start stoking the fire again. Chapter 4: The Fear Factory. Deep inside every human mind there is a factory that runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, producing something that shapes every decision we make. This factory does not produce cars or computers, it produces fear, and it is amazingly good at its job. It takes small uncertainties and turns them into terrifying certainties. It takes mild concerns and manufactures full-blown disasters. The fear factory is designed to protect us from danger, which was very useful thousands of years ago when there were actual tigers waiting to eat us. But today, the factory is still running on that old software, treating a difficult conversation like it is a life-threatening situation. It cannot tell the difference between social rejection and physical danger, so it sounds the alarm for everything. The person in the mirror is the foreman of this factory, and they have been waiting for you to realize that you can actually change the production line. The first product the fear factory loves to manufacture is the fear of failure, and it sells this product to us every single day. It shows us vivid pictures of what will happen if we try something and do not succeed, people laughing, dreams crumbling, embarrassment lasting forever. But here is what the factory does not tell you. Failure is not the disaster it pretends it will be. It is actually just feedback. Every successful person you have ever heard of failed more times than you have even tried, and they are not destroyed by it. They learned, they adjusted, and they tried again, which is exactly what failure is designed to help us do. The fear factory wants you to believe that failing once means you are a failure forever, which is one of the biggest lies it produces. The person in the mirror knows that failure is just data, information that helps you get better, not a judgment on your worth as a human being. Another best-selling product from the fear factory is the fear of what other people will think, and this one keeps more people stuck than almost anything else. We imagine our friends talking about us behind our backs, our family being disappointed, strangers judging our choices. The factory is so creative that it can produce an entire movie in our heads starring us as the embarrassed main character. But the reality is that most people are too busy with their own lives to spend much time thinking about yours. And even if they do think about you, their thoughts are temporary and fleeting, here today and gone tomorrow. The fear of judgment is a prison with walls made of air. It looks solid, but it would collapse if you just walked through it. The person in the mirror is asking you to consider whether the opinions of people who are not living your life should really have so much power over you. The fear factory also produces a special product called the fear of success, which sounds strange but is incredibly common. We are afraid of what might happen if we actually get what we want, the new responsibilities, the higher expectations, the possibility of losing it all. This fear keeps us playing small because playing big feels dangerous, like standing on a high cliff where we might fall. We sabotage ourselves right before we are about to break through. We get lazy. We make excuses. We find reasons to stop trying. The fear of success is really just the fear of the unknown dressed up in fancy clothes. It is fear of a future we cannot control. But the truth is that you cannot control the future whether you succeed or fail. So you might as well go for the success and deal with the challenges as they come. The person in the mirror knows you can handle more than you think, and they are ready to help you prove it. There is also the fear of not being enough, which is perhaps the most painful product the factory produces. Not smart enough, not talented enough, not attractive enough, not worthy enough to have the life you dream about. This fear attacks your identity at the deepest level, telling you that even if you try, you will never measure up. But think about who decided what enough means, who set the standard that you are failing to meet. The standard was made up by someone somewhere, and you have been accepting it as absolute truth without ever questioning it. The truth is that you are enough right now in this moment, exactly as you are, and you are also capable of growing into so much more. The person in the mirror does not need you to be perfect. They just need you to be present and willing to try. So the work of understanding the fear factory is to recognize that fear is just a feeling, not a command you have to obey. Fear can knock on your door all day long, but you do not have to invite it in for tea and let it run your life. You can feel afraid and still take the step. You can feel terrified and still speak your truth. You can feel the fear and do it anyway. The factory will never stop producing fear completely. That is its job, and it is good at it. But you get to decide which products you buy, which fears you listen to, and which ones you simply let pass by like clouds in the sky. The person in the mirror has been waiting for you to become the manager of the factory instead of just another worker on the line. Today, you can take the first step toward running the place instead of letting it run you. Chapter 5. Your own personal stop signs. If you pay close attention to your thoughts throughout the day, you will start to notice certain phrases that appear again and again like old familiar visitors. These are your personal stop signs, the specific sentences your mind uses to halt your progress before you even get started. For some people, the stop sign is "I am not ready yet," which sounds so reasonable that they never question whether it is true. For others, it is "I will do it tomorrow," a promise they make to themselves over and over without ever keeping. These stop signs are not random. They are deeply personal and perfectly designed to push your particular buttons. They know exactly what to say to make you pause, to make you doubt, to make you turn back toward safety. The person in the mirror has watched you hit these same stop signs thousands of times, and they are waiting for you to finally see them for what they are. One common stop sign is the belief that you need more information before you can act, that you must research and plan and prepare until you are absolutely certain. But certainty is something that never comes before action. It only comes after you have started moving and learning along the way. You can read about swimming for years, but you will never know what it feels like until you get in the water. The need for more information is often just a disguise for the fear of starting, a way to look busy while actually standing still. The person in the mirror knows that you already have enough information to take the first step, and that the next steps will reveal themselves as you go. Waiting for complete clarity is waiting for something that will never arrive, because clarity comes from movement, not from thinking about moving. Another stop sign that shows up for many people is the feeling that now is just not the right time, that there is some obstacle in the way that must be cleared first. You tell yourself that you will start exercising after the holidays, or pursue that dream after things settle down at work. But life never completely settles down. There will always be something demanding your attention, some reason to wait just a little longer. The perfect time is a myth that keeps you stuck in the parking lot of life while everyone else is on the road making progress. The obstacle you are waiting to clear may never fully disappear, and waiting for it to vanish means waiting forever. The person in the mirror is asking you to consider that this moment, right now with all its imperfections, might actually be the perfect time to begin. There is also the stop sign of self-doubt that whispers you are not the kind of person who does things like that. You are not a runner, so why would you start running now? You are not an artist, so why would you pick up a paintbrush? This stop sign attacks your identity, telling you that your future must look exactly like your past because that is who you are. But who you are is not a fixed thing that was decided long ago and cannot be changed. Who you are is a story you are writing every single day with the choices you make and the actions you take. You can decide today that you are the kind of person who tries new things, who grows, who surprises themselves. The person in the mirror believes in your ability to become someone new, and they are waiting for you to believe it too. Some stop signs are more subtle, like the feeling of being overwhelmed that makes you shut down instead of taking one small step. You look at the whole mountain and forget that mountains are climbed one step at a time, not in a single giant leap. Overwhelm is just a trick your mind plays to keep you from starting, because starting would mean facing the fear of not finishing. But you do not have to finish today. You do not have to be perfect today. You only have to take one tiny step forward. That one step breaks the spell of overwhelm and reminds you that you are capable of moving. The person in the mirror is not asking you to climb the whole mountain right now. They are just asking you to put one foot in front of the other. The most important thing to understand about your personal stop signs is that they lose their power the moment you recognize them. When you catch yourself saying, "I am not ready," you can pause and ask yourself whether that is really true or just an old habit. When you feel the urge to wait for a better time, you can remind yourself that better times are made, not found. Your stop signs have been running your life on autopilot for years, but autopilot can be disconnected at any moment. The person in the mirror has been waiting for you to grab the wheel and start driving yourself. Today, you can start paying attention to the signs that have been holding you back, and you can decide that from now on, you will run through them instead of stopping at them. Chapter 6: The Comparison Trap. There is a trap that has been set for you, and it is hiding in plain sight on your phone, on your television, and in every conversation you have with friends about other people's lives. This trap is called comparison, and it works by showing you everyone else's best moments while hiding all of their struggles and failures. You scroll through social media and see your friends' vacation photos, not the argument they had with their partner on that trip. You hear about your neighbor's promotion, not the years of rejection they faced before finally getting it. Comparison shows you the highlight reel and asks you to compare it to your own behind-the-scenes reality, which is a game you can never win. The person in the mirror knows that what you see of other people's lives is a carefully curated story, not the full truth. But knowing this intellectually and feeling it in your heart are two very different things. When you fall into the comparison trap, you start to feel like you are falling behind, like everyone else is moving faster and living better than you are. You begin to question your own choices and wonder what is wrong with you that you do not have what they have. This feeling is painful, but it is also completely based on incomplete information that your mind has filled in with worst-case assumptions. You assume that their life is as good as it looks, that they are as happy as they seem, that they do not struggle the way you do. But every single person on this planet has struggles, insecurities, and moments of deep doubt. No one gets through life without them. The person in the mirror wants you to remember that social media is a museum of highlights, not a documentary of real life. The comparison trap also steals your joy by making you focus on what you do not have instead of what you do have. You could have a beautiful home, loving relationships, and good health, but one glance at someone else's newer car can make all of that feel like it is not enough. This is the magic trick that comparison performs. It makes the plenty in your life disappear and replaces it with a focus on lack. You start chasing things you do not even truly want, just because someone else has them, and it makes you feel like you are missing out. The life you are supposed to live gets pushed aside while you try to copy someone else's path. The person in the mirror knows that your path is unique, designed for you and nobody else, and trying to walk someone else's road will only leave you lost and exhausted. Another way comparison hurts you is by turning other people into competitors instead of potential friends and teachers. When you compare yourself to someone, you put them in a box labeled ahead of me or behind me, and you lose the chance to learn from them. The person who has what you want could be a mentor, an inspiration, or even a friend if you approach them with curiosity instead of jealousy. But comparison creates separation and resentment, building walls where bridges could have been built. The truth is that there is room for everyone to succeed. Someone else's success does not take anything away from your potential. The person in the mirror is asking you to celebrate other people's wins and trust that your own wins are coming at exactly the right time. The comparison trap is especially dangerous because it never stops, no matter how much you achieve. You might get the promotion, but then you will compare yourself to someone with a higher title. You might buy the house, but then you will compare it to someone with a bigger one. There is no finish line where you finally have enough and the comparing stops. It is a treadmill that keeps running forever if you stay on it. The only way off the treadmill is to stop looking sideways at what others are doing and start looking forward at your own path. The person in the mirror wants you to run your own race at your own pace, not someone else's race at a pace that was never meant for you. So the work of escaping the comparison trap is to practice gratitude for what you have and curiosity about your own unique journey. When you feel the sting of envy, pause and ask yourself what you can learn from the person you are comparing yourself to. When you catch yourself feeling behind, Remind yourself that life is not a race with a single finish line that everyone is running toward. The only person you need to be better than is the person you were yesterday, and that is a competition you can actually win. The person in the mirror is not comparing you to anyone else. They are just watching to see if you will become a little more yourself today than you were before. Today you can take a step off the comparison treadmill and feel the ground solid beneath your feet for the first time in a long while. Chapter 7. The Perfectionist's Prison. There is a prison that looks like a palace from the outside, and many people spend their whole lives trying to get inside before they realize it is actually a cage. This prison is called perfectionism, and it promises you that if you can just get everything exactly right, you will finally be happy and at peace. It tells you that you must wait until you have the perfect plan, the perfect skills, the perfect timing before you can take action. It convinces you that mistakes are unacceptable, that anything less than flawless is a failure, that you must be exceptional at everything you try. But here is the truth that the prison guards do not want you to know. Perfectionism is not about high standards. It is about fear. It is fear of being judged, fear of being seen as imperfect, fear of trying and falling short. The person in the mirror sees the prison bars even when they are painted gold, and they are waiting for you to see them too. The perfectionist's prison keeps you stuck by making the first step feel impossibly heavy. You want to write a book, but you cannot write the first page until it is perfect, so you never write anything at all. You want to start a business, but you cannot launch until every detail is flawless, so you spend years planning and never open your doors. The demand for perfection freezes you in place, because the gap between where you are and where you want to be feels too wide to cross in one perfect leap. But no one ever made a perfect first attempt at anything. Every expert was once a beginner who made mistakes and learned from them. The person in the mirror knows that done is better than perfect, because done means you are moving and perfect means you are standing still. Another trick the perfectionist's prison plays is making you believe that mistakes define you, that if you do something imperfectly, you are an imperfect person. You make one small error at work and spend the rest of the week replaying it in your head, convinced that everyone thinks less of you now. You try a new hobby and you are not immediately good at it, so you quit and tell yourself you just are not talented in that area. But mistakes are not judgments on your character. They are simply part of the learning process that every human being goes through. The most successful people in the world have made more mistakes than most people have even tried, and they are not defined by those mistakes. They learned, they adjusted, and they kept going, which is exactly what mistakes are designed to help us do. The person in the mirror is not keeping score of your mistakes. They are keeping score of whether you get back up after you fall. The perfectionist's prison also steals the joy from your achievements by making you focus on what went wrong instead of what went right. You finish a project and immediately zero in on the one small thing that could have been better, ignoring the 99 things that went well. You receive a compliment and dismiss it because you know all the ways you fell short of your own impossible standards. This constant focus on imperfection makes it impossible to feel proud of yourself, no matter how much you accomplish. You are running on a treadmill where the finish line keeps moving further away every time you get close. The person in the mirror wants you to pause and actually see how far you have come, to celebrate the progress instead of mourning the perfection that never existed. There is also a hidden cost to perfectionism that many people do not consider. It pushes away the people who love you. When you demand perfection from yourself, you often start demanding it from others too, and no one can meet that standard. You become critical of your partner, your children, your friends, because they are not living up to your impossible expectations. Relationships suffer when perfectionism is in charge, because love requires acceptance of imperfection, including your own. The people who matter most do not need you to be perfect. They need you to be present, real, and willing to grow alongside them. The person in the mirror knows that your imperfections are part of what makes you lovable, not obstacles to be overcome before you are worthy of love. So the way out of the perfectionist's prison is to embrace what some people call the beautiful mess of being human. It is accepting that you will make mistakes, that you will fall short, that you will have days when you are not your best self. It is choosing to start before you feel ready, to share your work before it feels finished, to try even when you know you might fail. The opposite of perfectionism is not carelessness. It is courage, the courage to be seen as you are right now, imperfect and growing. The person in the mirror has been waiting for you to stop hiding behind the demand for perfection and finally step out into the light. Today you can take one imperfect step, and that step will be more beautiful than any perfect step you never took. Chapter 8: The Someday Illusion. There is a word that has stolen more dreams than failure ever could, and that word is someday. We say it to ourselves like a promise, believing that we are keeping our dreams alive by pushing them into the future. Someday I will travel. Someday I will start that business. Someday I will tell them how I feel. The word someday feels hopeful, like we are not giving up, we are just waiting for the right moment to arrive. But someday is not a day of the week. It does not appear on any calendar, and it never actually comes. It is a placeholder we use to avoid facing the fear of starting now, with all the risks and uncertainties that starting now involves. The person in the mirror has watched you push your dreams into the future year after year, and they are waiting for you to realize that someday is a trap. The someday illusion works because it lets us feel like we are still moving toward our goals while actually standing perfectly still. We can talk about our someday plans at parties and feel interesting and ambitious without ever having to do the hard work of making them real. We can comfort ourselves with the thought that we will get to it eventually, when the time is right, when we have more money, more time, more energy. But eventually never comes because there will always be another reason to wait, another obstacle that seems to require delaying just a little longer. The truth is that waiting does not make dreams easier to achieve. It usually makes them harder, because the energy and courage you have right now will not necessarily be there tomorrow. The person in the mirror knows that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the second best time is right now. Another danger of the someday illusion is that it allows us to pretend we have forever, when none of us actually know how much time we have. We assume there will be plenty of tomorrows to do the things we keep putting off, plenty of chances to say the words we are too afraid to say today. But life has a way of surprising us, of changing directions when we least expect it, of taking away opportunities we assumed would always be there. The people we love will not be here forever. Our own health and energy will not be the same forever. The world itself will not stay the same forever. Waiting for someday is a gamble with the most precious resource you have, which is the time you have right now. The person in the mirror is asking you to consider whether your someday dreams are worth the risk of never being lived at all. The someday illusion also keeps you stuck by making your happiness dependent on conditions that may never be met. You tell yourself that you will be happy someday when you have the right partner, the right job, the right amount of money in the bank. But someday never comes because there is always something else to want, another condition to meet before you allow yourself to feel content. Happiness that is always somewhere in the future is happiness that never actually arrives. It is always just beyond your reach. The person in the mirror wants you to know that you can be happy right now, in the middle of the mess, while you are still working toward your dreams. The joy is not just at the destination. It is in the journey itself, in the small steps you take every day. There is a special kind of sadness that comes from looking back on a life full of someday dreams that never became today actions. It is the regret of not trying, of not risking, of not giving yourself permission to go after what you really wanted. That regret is heavier than any failure could ever be, because failure at least means you tried, you learned, you lived. The people on their deathbeds do not regret the things they tried and failed at. They regret the things they never tried at all. They regret the words they left unsaid, the trips they never took, the dreams they kept pushing into a someday that never came. The person in the mirror does not want you to have that kind of regret. They want you to live fully and boldly while you still can. So the work of this chapter is to take the word someday out of your vocabulary and replace it with the word today. Today I will take one small step toward the dream I have been putting off. Today I will say the words I have been too afraid to say. Today I will stop waiting for perfect conditions and start with the conditions I have. You do not have to do everything today, you just have to do something. One small thing that moves you from someday into now. The person in the mirror has been waiting for you to stop promising yourself to the future and start showing up for yourself in the present. Today is the someday you were waiting for, and it is finally here. Chapter 9. Turning down the volume on the noise. Imagine for a moment that there is a radio playing inside your head, and it has been running non-stop for as long as you can remember. This radio plays all kinds of stations. There is the fear station, the doubt station, the self-criticism station, the worry station. You have gotten so used to the noise that you barely notice it anymore. It has become the background music of your entire life. But what if you could reach over and turn down the volume on that radio? Not turn it off completely, just turn it down enough to hear something else. What if there was a quieter voice underneath all that noise? A voice that actually believes in you and wants you to succeed. The person in the mirror knows that voice is there, and they have been waiting for you to turn down the noise long enough to hear it. The first step in turning down the volume is simply noticing that the noise is there. That you are not your thoughts, you are the one listening to them. Right now, as you read these words, there are thoughts passing through your mind like clouds in the sky. Some of those clouds are dark and stormy, telling you that you cannot do this, that you are not good enough, that you should just give up now. But you are not the clouds, you are the sky, and the sky can watch the clouds pass by without being changed by them. This simple realization is more powerful than it sounds, because it means you do not have to believe every thought that enters your head. You can notice a fearful thought and simply let it go, like releasing a balloon into the air. The person in the mirror is the sky, not the clouds, and they want you to know that you are the sky too. Another way to turn down the volume on the noise is to stop arguing with your thoughts, because arguing gives them more energy and attention. When the critical voice says you are not good enough, your instinct might be to fight back, to prove it wrong, to argue about why it is mistaken. But arguing with a negative thought is like wrestling with a pig. You both get muddy, and the pig likes it. The thought wants your attention, and even negative attention is still attention, still fuel for the fire. Instead of arguing, you can simply notice the thought and say to yourself, "Thank you for sharing," and then let it move on. You do not have to invite every thought to stay for dinner. You can just let it knock and walk away. The person in the mirror knows that thoughts are visitors, and you get to decide which ones become permanent residents. The noise in your head is often loudest when you are trying to do something new or scary, because the fear factory kicks into high gear to protect you. It screams warnings and worst-case scenarios, trying to convince you to turn back to safety. But you can acknowledge the noise without obeying it. You can feel the fear and take the step anyway. The noise does not have to stop for you to move forward. It can keep screaming while you walk right through it. Think of it like background music in a store. It is playing, but you do not have to dance to it. The person in the mirror is not waiting for the noise to stop. They are waiting for you to move despite the noise. There is also a practice that helps turn down the volume, and it is called focusing on your breath for just a few moments each day. When you pay attention to your breathing, you step out of the river of thoughts and onto the bank where you can watch them flow by. Your breath is always there, always happening right now, and it can anchor you in the present moment where most of the noise loses its power. The thoughts are usually about the past or the future, regrets about yesterday or worries about tomorrow, but your breath is always in the now. Spending a few minutes each day just breathing and noticing can gradually turn down the volume on all the mental noise. The person in the mirror breathes the same air you breathe, and they are right there with you in this moment, right now. As you practice turning down the volume, you will start to notice something wonderful happening beneath all that noise. You will hear a quieter voice, a voice that speaks with kindness instead of criticism, with encouragement instead of fear. This voice reminds you that you are doing your best, that it is okay to make mistakes, that you are capable of more than you think. This voice has been there all along. It was just drowned out by all the noise from the fear factory. The more you turn down the volume on the negative thoughts, the more you can hear this gentle, supportive voice that truly wants what is best for you. The person in the mirror has been speaking in this quiet voice all along, and they are so happy that you are finally starting to listen. Chapter 10: A New Kind of Conversation. Now that you are learning to turn down the volume on the negative noise, it is time to start a new kind of conversation with the person in the mirror. This conversation is different from the one you have been having, where you criticize yourself for every mistake and remind yourself of every flaw. This new conversation is gentle, encouraging, and honest in a way that helps you grow instead of keeping you small. It is the kind of conversation you would have with a dear friend who is going through a hard time, full of support and belief in their ability to figure things out. The person in the mirror has been waiting for you to speak to them this way, to treat yourself with the same kindness you so freely offer to others. It might feel strange at first, like speaking a language you have never learned, but you can learn it with practice. The first rule of this new conversation is to notice how you talk to yourself when things go wrong, because those moments reveal your inner dialogue most clearly. You make a mistake at work, and what is the first thing you say to yourself? Is it encouraging or is it cruel? You forget an appointment, and how do you respond? With understanding or with anger? Most of us have a habit of beating ourselves up over small mistakes as if we had committed a terrible crime. But imagine if a friend came to you with the same mistake. Would you yell at them and call them stupid? Or would you offer comfort and help them figure out how to do better next time? The person in the mirror deserves the same kindness you would give to anyone else, and it is time to start offering it. Another important part of this new conversation is learning to separate your behavior from your identity, because you are not your mistakes. You might have made a poor choice, but that does not make you a bad person. You might have failed at something, but that does not make you a failure. When you tie your identity to every action you take, you set yourself up for a lifetime of feeling unworthy whenever you fall short. But when you can say, "I made a mistake, and I am still a good person who is learning and growing," you give yourself room to improve without crushing your spirit. The person in the mirror is not defined by their worst moments. They are defined by their willingness to keep trying despite those moments. This distinction changes everything about how you recover from setbacks. The new conversation also involves celebrating your wins, even the tiny ones that seem too small to mention. When you got out of bed on a hard morning, that was a win. When you chose a healthy meal instead of fast food, that was a win. When you were kind to someone even though you were tired, that was a win. These small victories matter because they are the building blocks of a new relationship with yourself. Each time you acknowledge a win, you are telling the person in the mirror that you see them, that you appreciate them, that you are on their side. Over time, this practice rewires your brain to look for what is going right instead of constantly scanning for what is going wrong. The person in the mirror lights up when you notice their efforts, because they have been working hard without any recognition for so long. You can also use this new conversation to coach yourself through difficult moments instead of panicking or giving up. When you face a challenge, you can ask yourself questions like, "What do I need right now?" or "What would be a helpful next step?" You can offer yourself encouragement by saying things like, "You have gotten through hard things before, and you will get through this too." You can remind yourself that it is okay to feel scared or uncertain, and that those feelings do not mean you are failing. This inner coaching is like having a personal trainer for your mind, someone who believes in you and pushes you to keep going even when you want to quit. The person in the mirror is the best coach you will ever have, because they know you better than anyone else ever could. The most beautiful part of starting this new conversation is that it gets easier with practice, just like learning any new skill. At first, you might forget and fall back into old habits of self-criticism, and that is okay. You just notice it and start again. Over time, the kind voice becomes stronger and the critical voice becomes quieter because you are feeding one and starving the other. You are literally changing the structure of your brain through the simple act of choosing different thoughts. The person in the mirror is changing right along with you, becoming a friend instead of an enemy, an ally instead of an adversary. Today you can begin this new conversation, and it might just be the most important conversation you ever have. Chapter 11: Finding the Gift in the Mess. Life has a way of getting messy, of throwing things at us that we did not ask for and do not want. We lose jobs, relationships end. We make mistakes that hurt ourselves and others. We face health scares that shake us to our core. In the middle of these messes, it feels impossible to imagine that anything good could come from the pain we are experiencing. We just want it to stop, to go away, to leave us alone so we can go back to normal life. But what if the mess is not just a problem to be solved, but also a teacher with something important to show us? What if buried deep inside every difficult experience there is a gift waiting to be unwrapped, if we are brave enough to look for it? The person in the mirror has been through every mess with you, and they have seen the gifts that you might have missed in your pain. The first gift that often comes from the mess is clarity about what truly matters to you. When things are going smoothly, it is easy to drift through life without questioning your choices or your direction. But when everything falls apart, you are forced to ask yourself some hard questions about what you really want and who you really are. You realize that the job you lost was not making you happy anyway, or that the relationship that ended was not as healthy as you pretended it was. The mess clears away the things that were not meant for you, making space for something better to arrive. It hurts like crazy while it is happening, but looking back, you can often see that the mess was actually a redirect toward a more authentic life. The person in the mirror knew all along that you were settling for less than you deserve, and the mess was the wake-up call you needed. Another gift hidden in the mess is the discovery of your own strength, which you never knew you had until you had no choice but to use it. You get through a difficult time, and on the other side you realize that you are tougher than you thought, more resilient than you ever imagined. You faced something that felt like it might break you, and here you are, still standing, still breathing, still moving forward. That knowledge becomes a part of you that nothing can ever take away, a quiet confidence that you can handle whatever comes next. You stop being so afraid of future challenges because you have proof that you can survive them. The person in the mirror watched you struggle and doubted sometimes, but they also watched you rise, and they will never forget what you are capable of. The mess also teaches us compassion, both for ourselves and for others who are struggling. When you have been through hard times, you understand that everyone is fighting battles you cannot see, and you become gentler in your judgments. You stop assuming that people who mess up are bad or weak, because you know now that messing up is just part of being human. You learn to offer the same kindness to yourself that you offer to others, recognizing that you are doing the best you can with what you have. This compassion softens you in a way that comfort never could, making you more connected to the people around you. The person in the mirror has learned to be more compassionate too, because they have seen you at your lowest and still love you completely. Sometimes the gift in the mess is a new direction you never would have considered if the old path had not been blocked. The job loss leads to a career you love more than you ever loved the old one. The broken heart leads to a relationship that fits you better than the last one ever did. The health scare leads to lifestyle changes that give you more energy and vitality than you had in years. The mess forces you off a path that was leading nowhere and onto a path that leads somewhere meaningful. It is hard to see this when you are in the middle of it, but looking back, the detour often turns out to be the scenic route to a better destination. The person in the mirror trusts that even when you cannot see the way forward, there is a path emerging beneath your feet. Finding the gift in the mess does not mean pretending the pain did not happen or that it did not hurt. It means honoring the pain while also being open to the possibility that something good can come from it. It means asking yourself what you can learn instead of just asking why this happened to me. It means trusting that you are not just a victim of your circumstances, but also someone who can grow and transform through them. The person in the mirror has been waiting for you to see that every scar is also a story of survival. Every wound is also a place where wisdom entered. The mess is not the end of your story. It is just a difficult chapter that leads to a stronger, wiser, more compassionate you. Chapter 12. Celebrating the tiny wins. There is a common mistake that many people make on their journey of growth. They wait for the big victory before they allow themselves to feel proud. They want to lose 30 pounds before they celebrate eating healthy for one day. They want to finish the whole book before they celebrate writing a single page. They want to get the promotion before they celebrate showing up early and working hard. This way of thinking steals the joy from the journey and makes the path feel impossibly long. The truth is that big victories are just collections of tiny wins stacked on top of each other over time. If you cannot celebrate the tiny wins, you will miss most of the joy that your life has to offer. The person in the mirror is celebrating your tiny wins every day, even when you do not notice them, and they wish you would join in the celebration. Think about what it means to celebrate a tiny win. It means acknowledging that you showed up when it would have been easier to stay in bed. It means giving yourself credit for choosing the salad instead of the burger, even if you had pizza for dinner last night. It means being proud of yourself for having the difficult conversation, even if it did not go perfectly. These moments matter because they are evidence that you are changing, that you are becoming the person you want to be. Each tiny win is a brick in the foundation of your new life, and every brick deserves to be noticed and appreciated. The person in the mirror sees every single brick, and they are amazed at the structure you are building. When you start celebrating tiny wins, something magical happens in your brain. You begin to look for more opportunities to earn that good feeling. Your brain releases chemicals that make you feel happy and motivated when you acknowledge your progress, and it wants more of that feeling. So you start looking for ways to create more tiny wins, more moments where you can show up and do the thing. The celebration becomes fuel for further action, creating a positive cycle that builds momentum over time. Instead of dragging yourself through each day, you start moving with energy and purpose, eager to see what small victory you can achieve next. The person in the mirror loves watching this cycle begin because they know where it leads. Celebrating tiny wins also protects you from the discouragement that comes when progress feels slow. There will be days when you take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, days when nothing seems to be working the way you hoped. On those days, looking back at your collection of tiny wins reminds you that you are still moving, still growing, still becoming. You can point to evidence that you are not the same person you were last month, last week, or even yesterday. This evidence keeps you going when the big goal still feels far away, because you can see that you are getting closer one tiny win at a time. The person in the mirror is your witness, keeping track of every small step so you do not have to carry that weight alone. There are so many ways to celebrate, and you get to choose what feels good for you. You can keep a journal where you write down 3 tiny wins at the end of each day. You can tell someone you trust about something small you did that made you proud. You can give yourself a mental high five in the moment, pausing to acknowledge what just happened. You can treat yourself to something small, like a favorite coffee or a few minutes of quiet time, as a reward for showing up. The celebration does not have to be big or expensive. It just has to be real and meaningful to you. The person in the mirror is clapping for you right now, just for reading this book and taking your growth seriously. So today, look for the tiny wins hiding in plain sight all around you. Notice that you got out of bed, that you brushed your teeth, that you chose to read instead of scrolling through your phone. Notice that you were patient with someone who annoyed you, that you drank water instead of soda, that you took 3 deep breaths when you felt stressed. These are not small things. They are the building blocks of a new relationship with yourself. The person in the mirror has been celebrating them all along, and now it is time for you to join the party. Your life is made of tiny moments, and learning to celebrate them is learning to celebrate your entire existence. Chapter 13. Designing your future self. One choice at a time. There is a question that can change everything about how you live your life, and it is a question you can ask yourself at any moment. The question is simple. What would the person I want to become do right now? Not what would they do someday when they have arrived, but what would they do in this exact moment with these exact circumstances? Would the future you wake up early or hit snooze? Would they speak kindly or snap in anger? Would they take the step or play it safe? This question is powerful because it turns your future self from a distant dream into a present reality, someone you can become right now through the choices you make. Every single choice you make is a vote for the person you are becoming, and you get to cast those votes all day long. The person in the mirror is the future you, looking back at you from the other side of all those choices, cheering you on. Think about the small choices that fill your day: what to eat, what to say, how to spend your time, where to focus your attention. Each of these choices might seem insignificant on its own, like a single drop of water in a vast ocean. But drops of water over time can carve canyons, and small choices over time can carve the shape of your entire life. The person who becomes healthy made thousands of small choices to move their body and eat well. The person who becomes a writer made thousands of small choices to sit down and write. The person who becomes kind made thousands of small choices to respond with patience instead of anger. Your future self is not created in one dramatic moment. It is created in the quiet moments when no one is watching and you choose who you want to be. One of the most helpful ways to design your future self is to get clear about who that person actually is, what they value, how they spend their time, how they treat others. You can close your eyes and imagine them, see them moving through their day with confidence and purpose. What do they do first thing in the morning? How do they handle stress? What do they say to themselves when things get hard? The more clearly you can see this future version of yourself, the easier it becomes to make choices that align with their way of being. You are not guessing anymore. You are following a blueprint that you created with your own imagination. The person in the mirror is already that future self in some ways, and they are showing you the path with every choice they made to get there. This approach also takes the pressure off because you do not have to be perfect all at once. You do not have to become your future self today. You just have to make one choice that they would make. You do not have to run a marathon. You just have to put on your shoes and walk around the block like they would. You do not have to write a book. You just have to write one paragraph like they would. Each choice that aligns with your future self strengthens your identity and makes the next choice easier. Over time, these choices add up to a transformation that feels almost effortless because you took it one step at a time. The person in the mirror knows that small steps, consistently taken, lead to places you cannot even imagine from where you stand now. There will be days when you make choices that do not align with your future self, and that is part of being human. You will eat the junk food, you will snap at someone you love, you will waste hours scrolling on your phone. On those days, the important thing is not to give up on the whole project, but simply to make the next choice align again. One choice does not define you, and neither does one day. What defines you is the pattern of your choices over time. You can always come back to the question, what would my future self do now, and make a different choice in this next moment. The person in the mirror has made plenty of choices they regret, but they never let those choices stop them from trying again. So today, start asking yourself the question as often as you remember to ask it. In the morning, ask what would my future self do with this fresh new day. When you face a temptation, ask what would my future self choose in this moment. When you feel like giving up, ask what would my future self say to encourage me right now. This simple practice will gradually align your daily life with your deepest values and highest aspirations. You are not just dreaming about who you want to become, you are actively becoming them with every choice you make. The person in the mirror is watching with pride as you take another step toward them, and they cannot wait to welcome you when you finally arrive. Chapter 14: The Discipline of Self-Kindness. There is a common misunderstanding about discipline that keeps many people stuck in cycles of failure and self-criticism. We tend to think that discipline means being hard on ourselves, pushing through pain, ignoring our feelings, and forcing ourselves to do things we hate. We imagine a strict coach yelling at us to try harder, to push more, to stop being so weak and lazy. But this version of discipline is actually just punishment disguised as motivation, and it rarely works for very long. True discipline, the kind that lasts and actually changes your life, comes from a place of self-kindness, not self-hatred. It is the gentle but firm commitment to doing what is good for you because you care about yourself, not because you are angry at yourself. The person in the mirror knows the difference, and they have been waiting for you to discover it too. Think about how you treat someone you truly love when they are struggling. Do you yell at them and call them lazy, or do you offer support and encouragement? You probably sit with them, listen to them, help them figure out what they need, and remind them that you believe in them. Now think about how you treat yourself when you are struggling to stay disciplined, when you skip a workout or eat something you regret. Most of us respond with criticism and shame, making ourselves feel worse instead of better. But feeling worse does not lead to doing better. It leads to seeking comfort in the very habits we are trying to change. The discipline of self-kindness means treating yourself like someone you love, even when you fall short, especially when you fall short. The person in the mirror needs your kindness most on the days when you feel you deserve it least. Self-kindness discipline also means understanding your own limits and working with them instead of against them. It means noticing that you have more energy in the morning, so you schedule your most important tasks then instead of fighting to focus at night. It means recognizing that you need rest, so you build breaks into your day instead of running yourself into exhaustion. It means accepting that you are human, with human needs and human limitations, and designing your life accordingly. This is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is working with reality instead of fighting against it. The person in the mirror knows your limits better than anyone, and they want you to honor them so you can sustain your efforts over the long term. Another aspect of self-kindness discipline is learning to forgive yourself quickly when you slip, so you can get back on track without wasting time in shame. When you make a mistake, you can acknowledge it, learn from it, and then let it go, all in a matter of minutes. You do not have to spend hours or days beating yourself up, proving to yourself how sorry you are for failing. That time and energy is better spent on simply making a better choice in the next moment. Self-forgiveness is not about letting yourself off the hook. It is about getting back on the hook faster so you can keep moving forward. The person in the mirror has already forgiven you for everything. They are just waiting for you to forgive yourself. The discipline of self-kindness also involves setting boundaries that protect your energy and your peace. It means saying no to things that drain you so you have energy for things that matter. It means stepping away from people who make you feel small so you can spend time with those who lift you up. It means choosing rest when you need it, even if the world tells you to keep pushing. These boundaries are acts of self-respect, not selfishness, and they are essential for anyone who wants to grow and change over the long haul. The person in the mirror needs you to protect them from the things that would drain their spirit and dim their light. You are their guardian as much as they are yours. So the work of this chapter is to redefine what discipline means to you, to take it back from the harsh taskmaster and make it an expression of self-love. When you wake up early, it is because you love yourself enough to want a productive day, not because you hate yourself for sleeping in yesterday. When you choose healthy food, it is because you love your body and want it to feel good, not because you are punishing yourself for being overweight. When you work on your dreams, it is because you believe you deserve a beautiful life, not because you are trying to prove your worth to anyone. This shift in motivation changes everything, because love sustains you in ways that fear and shame never can. The person in the mirror loves you completely and unconditionally, and they are ready to support you in becoming the best version of yourself, not because you have to, but because you want to. Chapter 15. Taking the mirror with you. As we come to the final chapter of this journey together, it is important to understand that the work we have done is not something you finish and leave behind. The person in the mirror is not a problem to be solved once and for all. They are a companion you will carry with you for the rest of your life. There will be days when the old enemy shows up again, when the critical voice gets loud, when the comparison trap snaps shut around you. On those days, you do not start over from the beginning. You simply remember what you have learned and gently guide yourself back to the path. The relationship with yourself is like any important relationship. It requires ongoing attention, patience, and care. The person in the mirror will be with you through every joy and every struggle, every success and every failure, from this moment until your very last breath. Taking the mirror with you means that you now have a tool you can use in any situation, no matter how difficult or confusing. When you face a hard decision, you can look inward and ask what is truly right for you, not what looks right to everyone else. When you feel lost, you can look inward and remember that you have navigated hard times before and you can do it again. When you achieve something wonderful, you can look inward and celebrate with the one person who truly understands what it cost you to get there. The mirror becomes a source of wisdom, comfort, and strength that you can access anytime, anywhere, without needing anyone else's permission or approval. You have built a relationship with yourself that nothing and no one can ever take away from you. The world will continue to offer you distractions from this relationship, because a world full of people who do not know themselves is easier to control and manipulate. The advertisements will tell you that you need things to be happy, that you are not enough as you are. The social media will show you other people's lives and invite you to compare and despair. The noise will try to drown out the quiet voice of the person in the mirror who knows what you truly need. But now you know the game, you see how the distractions work, and you have the power to choose where to place your attention. You can look at the noise and then look in the mirror and decide which one deserves your trust. The person in the mirror has never lied to you. They have only reflected the truth you were ready to see. Taking the mirror with you also means extending the peace you have found with yourself to the people around you. When you are no longer at war with yourself, you have so much more energy and love to offer others. You stop expecting them to fill the holes in your heart because you are learning to fill them yourself. You stop blaming them for your unhappiness because you have taken responsibility for your own joy. You become someone who can love without clinging, give without exhausting yourself, and connect without losing yourself in the process. The peace you make with the person in the mirror ripples outward into every relationship you will ever have, making you a better partner, parent, friend, and human being. This is one of the most beautiful gifts of doing this inner work. There will be moments when you forget everything we have talked about, when you fall back into old patterns and wonder if you have made any progress at all. In those moments, be gentle with yourself, because this is not a sign that you have failed. It is just part of the journey. The path of growth is not a straight line. It is a spiral where you circle back to the same lessons at deeper and deeper levels. Each time you fall and get back up, you are stronger than you were before. Each time you remember to look in the mirror with kindness instead of criticism, you are reinforcing the new relationship you are building. The person in the mirror is patient. They have been with you through everything, and they will be with you through this too. So as you close this book and go back out into the world, remember that you are not going alone. The most important companion you will ever have is right there with you, in every reflection, in every quiet moment, in every choice you make. They have been your enemy and they have become your friend, and now they are ready to walk beside you as you build the life you truly want. The journey does not end here. It begins here, with a new understanding of who you are and who you can become. The person in the mirror is finally on your side, and together there is nothing you cannot face, nothing you cannot overcome, nothing you cannot become. Conclusion: the friend you have been waiting for. We began this journey with a simple but uncomfortable truth, that the biggest enemy you will ever face is the one staring back at you in the mirror. We have spent these pages exploring all the ways that enemy operates, through blame, through lies, through fear, through comparison, through perfectionism, through the endless noise of self-criticism. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. The enemy started to look less like an enemy and more like a misunderstood friend. You began to see that the voice that seemed so cruel was actually just scared, trying to protect you from risks that no longer threatened you. You started to understand that the person in the mirror was not trying to hold you back. They were just waiting for you to finally take their hand and walk forward together. The war you thought you were fighting turned out to be a misunderstanding, and the peace you find now is so much sweeter because of how hard you worked to earn it. Now you know that the face in the glass is not your enemy at all, but your most faithful ally, your most consistent companion, your most reliable source of strength and wisdom. They have been with you through every triumph and every tragedy, through every high and every low, loving you even when you could not love yourself. They have watched you struggle and they have watched you rise, and they have never once given up on you, not even in your darkest moments. The relationship you have built with yourself through this journey is the foundation upon which you can build anything: a career you love, relationships that nourish you, a life that feels truly your own. The person in the mirror is finally your friend, and they have been waiting for this moment for a very long time. Go ahead and smile at them. They are smiling back, ready for whatever comes next together.